Welcome everyone to That Kind of Nerds Podcast, a weekly show that tells you what's going on in the nerdy world. I am CJ Mellon, joined this week by Brian Thornton.
And only me.
That's true. Josh is away, so we're running the Asylum. That's not good news.
I don't know who's running the Asylum. I thought we were inmates.
Oh no, the inmates are running the Asylum?
I don't have the capabilities of running an asylum.
So there is no voice of reason this week, which is good.
Who would be our psychiatrist? Like, I can't do that job. Can you? This is a terrible idea. I'm just thinking of all the jobs involved in an asylum. I can't do half of them.
I can do the janitorial work. That's no problem.
Oh, okay. I can trust you with janitorial work.
Yeah, that's all you can trust.
I'll just go in the corner and cry.
That's fine. Makes bad sense.
Cool.
So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to brace yourself. Since Brian is here, I'm going to lean upon his expertise. We're going to start it off with Cape Talk.
Cape Talk. Oh, so we're running Arkham Asylum.
Yes. Yes, we are.
All right.
And it's actually
way more responsibility.
And it's so interesting that you said that, because we need to talk about the DCEU. And we need to talk about the story that took over. There's two stories that took over the week. And it was Martin Scorsese is making a Joker origin story without Jared Leto. Before you open up your wealth of knowledge and talk about this and how probably we're all bent out of shape for nothing, or rightfully so, I didn't ask for this. To me, the best part about the Joker is we don't know his origin. That's why it was so awesome in The Dark Knight. Why was Heath Ledger's Joker so great? Because he lied about how he got these scars. He lied about his wife. He made up these elaborate tales, and it was spooky as fuck because he was a wild canon. When I saw The Killing Joke, and we got a little bit of that background, right? And I don't know how far into canon that is. And we saw like the Red Hood nod, and we see him fall into the vat of chemicals, but we see about his life and his family and da-da-da-da-da. It's great, but that's not the appeal for the Joker for me. It's the wild cardness, the fact that no one knows what's going on. That's what makes it very exciting. That and text message sounds going off while we record. So I don't know who asked for this. I don't know why it's happening. That is my non-comic book nerd perspective. Brian has the most puzzled look on his face. Please unload and tell me I'm an idiot and correct me.
I'm really confused. I'm confused by a couple different things. One, why the hell does Martin Scorsese have anything to do with this movie?
He's in there. Do you know who the director is?
This type of movie.
Do you know who the director is? Todd Phillips, the director of the Hangover trilogy.
Oh, this has got amazing written all over it. All right, so yeah, because I want to see Joker with a baby strapped to him for an hour and a half.
Oh, the baby's name is Carlos.
So
again, this is in development, so I mean, this could all change. But no one.
I don't care. I don't care, because if they're making official announcements, it's far enough in development that it's going to happen.
Well, it's not really an official announcement. This was kind of leaked out.
Okay, come on, dude.
Nothing
is ever truly leaked.
I understand, but correct me if I'm wrong on all my pontificating.
But the problem is you're not wrong.
Oh my god, this never happens.
And I don't understand why they would do this, because even in the comic books, they're very, very forward with the fact that the origin, quote unquote, told in The Killing Joke might not be true.
Right.
Like, you still don't know what the true origin of the Joker is, and that's part of what makes that character great, is because you don't know his motivations. He's just doing shit to do it.
So far, I'm par for the course.
And I don't understand why we're going to make a movie and either make up an origin or take some of the different origins, quote unquote, that may or may not have happened in the comic book and put them in a movie about the Joker, when all I want to see from the Joker is him fight Batman.
Right, and the other thing too
is it true? I think I read somewhere that they scrapped the Gotham City Sirens movie for this.
I didn't read that, but I can believe that happening.
I read somewhere that they scrapped Gotham City Sirens, and then they were like, we're going to do Joker and Harley Quinn, and now that's just turned into...
No.
Now that's just turned into the Joker.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up, Brian, because again, this is the state of the DECU. These are two different movies. There's also a Harley Quinn Joker spinoff happening with Jared Leto, and we're having this Martin Scorsese movie working out completely standalone. So what they're trying to do right now, what Warner Brothers is trying to do, is Sony and Marvel have their cake and eat it too. And you can't do that, right? Because right now in Marvel, we're getting the wonderful storyline, the Infinity War saga. We're getting all of that. But on Sony's side, Sony's doing the Spider-Man villains, right? We're getting the Venom movie, and they're not connected to the Marvel stuff. And this is what Warner Brothers is trying to do. The Joker origin with some different Joker, with Martin Scorsese running as executive producer. And then we've got the Jared Leto Harley Quinn thing happening, which is connected to the cinematic universe of the DCEU. What? Why?
Okay, well, so first off, they're not making, like, every announcement that they make, they're not making a DC extended universe. They're just making a Batman extended universe. I'm not joking. Every new project has been Batgirl, Nightwing, Joker now. So out of all of these DCEU movies, I will have the Batman. I will have Batman and Justice League. I will have Batman and Batman v Superman. I will have Batman characters in Suicide Squad. And then I will have a Batgirl, a Nightwing, a Joker movie, possible Joker and Harley Quinn movie. That is 8 movies that I'm already counting. What other characters do we have? So we have Wonder Woman.
Flash.
We have Flash.
Aquaman.
We have Cyborg. We have Aquaman.
Right.
And a possible Green Lantern movie.
Right, because he's allegedly going to be in this Justice League movie.
I heard that too.
So
I have 3 more movies in the Bat universe than I do into the DC universe. And the DC universe, there's so much to do. I don't know why they continue to focus and come back to this well. If they would do it right, they would do it. It would be good. And a Joker movie is a terrible idea because you're losing everything that makes the character great. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, and I'm going to do my best Josh Burns impersonation.
All right, boss. You gotta say boss.
Yeah, but there's all these like amazing stories you could tell. Like Brian, is there not stories you could tell with this character? Yes, Josh. There is. Great. Then I want them all. Just give them to me. Okay, but that still doesn't make sense, Josh. Josh doesn't care. Josh just wants all the Batman all the time. Okay. I don't know why I had Josh refer to himself in the third person, but that's kind of envisioning what I think he would say right now. But he's not here. So I'm going to tell you this is a freaking terrible idea. This is
both of this, right? The standalone Harley Quinn Joker movie.
See, I'm okay. I'm more okay with a standalone Harley Quinn Joker movie. I'm even more okay with a Gotham City Sirens movie.
Yeah, see that movie, fine, and that was the bill of goods that we were sold, and we're not getting that now. Listen, I understand that there's a lot of curiosity to the Joker character, right? And he's a fantastic character. Don't get me wrong,
but that's part of what makes him great.
Is that
the moment they gave Wolverine an origin and stopped this whole like he's like doomed by this haunted past that he doesn't remember, that character became less interesting.
They're and
doing
Bone
the
Claws,
same
yes.
thing. Oh, the Bone Claws lasted much longer than you think they did, and they didn't really ruin the character.
Just making fun of the movie.
Yeah, I got you. But even in the comic book, like let's just take Logan for example. Like for the 30 years, that character had been around, and no one knew what his story was. And the cool thing about it is that every once in a while, you would come up across a story that came from his past, and it would make the character more interesting. And then they gave him an origin, and all that magic was lost. Right. You're going to do the same thing to one of the greatest villains in comic book history of all time, especially to the point where like the part of the character that we like is because he's so crazy and has no motivation. If you give him an origin, you give him motivation.
Now now
the character is dumb.
Now I'm gonna I'm gonna channel Josh Burns. I'm not gonna be Josh Burns because
I couldn't be Josh Burns either.
I'm just gonna channel a thought that he has, and he goes, "Hey, the very very simple question, Brian." The Joker, if you were doing an origin story, he would be a small time thief. He would be a guy who does a couple heists here and there. A little crime.
Maybe, we don't know.
But I mean, typically, right? We're just talking about a guy who does crime, right?
It could be.
Who evolves eventually maybe into a huge, crime lord kind of thing.
Yeah, but he's not even really a crime lord
now. But who would you want in charge of that? The guy who did The Departed, right? I think we can.
Of course, I'd want that person in charge of it. That's not
wait. But I listen, and I would say yes, right? But here's the other part: Todd Phillips, The Hangover, like due date.
This is not the guy you put in charge of a movie like this.
Right, exactly.
I'd rather have Martin Scorsese directing it.
I can give you Martin Scorsese as I'm gonna be there to watch this project. But if the director that you have is Todd Phillips, you're missing the mark. Just not gonna work. I don't know why this is happening. Listen, I'm not opposed to having some standalone movies that aren't necessarily connected to the story being told by DC. Listen, you can twist my arm enough to make me buy that and to say, yeah, okay, I'll watch them. I mean, I'll watch them. You could definitely say, hey, we want to do this as an animated movie. All right, I'll give you even more leeway. But when you make it live action, when you remove it and you have this Harley Quinn Joker thing in the works together, you're just conflicting with this. You're doing a lot of brand damage, and this makes no sense.
Seems like for every 2 steps forward DC takes, they take 3 steps back. Like every time I get a little bit of faith in what the plan is, and the plan is like changing and evolving, they say something, and I go, that's not going to work, even in the plan that you've already set up.
Here's the thing: they did a course correction with Wonder Woman, and I was ready to start eating my words, saying,
and it looks like they did a course correction with Justice League.
Exactly, with Joss Whedon taking over and doing a course correction for all the Snyderisms that I hate. And I was like, hey, DC's actually fixing their stuff because they realize they need to stop trying to be Marvel and just be DC. And I started to agree with what they were doing. I mean, I really enjoyed Wonder Woman. I really liked it. Yeah. And I liked the news that was coming out of Justice League. This, again, just like you said, Brian, a couple steps back. So, I mean, any final thoughts you want to say on this? I do want to move on to another bit of DC news, but I
don't know if I can take any more DC news, but continue.
This is good, and this is just a little bit of a little bit of follow-up. We had talked last week that we are getting some casting news for the live-action Titans show that's going to be on the DC digital service.
They had casted Raven last time we talked.
Right, and now they have cast Starfire. And it's from one of the actresses, Anna, I think it's Diop?
I don't know.
She's from 24 Legacy, for those of you who watch that. She's been in a couple other smaller bits in Quantico and other shows like that. Looks interesting. She's a young woman. I've never seen her really in anything. So we've got some Australian newcomer. We've got a relatively unknown person coming in for Starfire. I'm okay with them bringing in a bunch of essentially unknown.
I think this is the best call for this show.
Yeah,
it's just a bunch of well, I mean, and think about, I mean, Greg Berlanti's heading it, so think about the Berlanti-verse in general. I mean, Stephen Amell wasn't really anybody before Arrow. Grant Gustin and Melissa Benoist had a season or 2 on Glee,
but they weren't minor characters.
And they were minor characters, and they were on the seasons of Glee that killed the show. Yeah. Like no one watched them.
Right, exactly.
So they were relatively unknown too. And I think the biggest name in that entire universe is Brandon Routh,
right,
as the Atom. So I mean, they've done a really good job of taking these unknown characters. But that's the thing. That's the thing that Berlanti does right. That the giant movie verse isn't really understanding is that it's not about who you put in the suit. It's about the story and the character development and all this other stuff, right?
Exactly.
This is what Marvel does really well.
Right.
They cast not unknowns, but people who aren't huge yet. So the movie's not about that actor.
Right.
Like right now, it's every time we talk about Batman, it's all about Batfleck. It's all about Ben Affleck as Batman.
Right.
And when Iron Man 1 came out, no one was really talking about Robert Downey Jr. before then. He just started to come back. Chris Evans wasn't a huge actor. Chris Hemsworth was literally unknown. I mean, so the conversation's about the movie. It's not about the actor. And the DC movieverse can't seem to understand that, but Berlanti gets it.
Yeah, and I like that, again, just like you just said, we can now focus on the characters and make that the driving force to it, and then get to know the people behind the scenes, but really focus on them.
Especially for an ensemble movie or ensemble cast like this, right. There's never going to be pressure to say, well, we were paying X amount of dollars for this person, so they need the most screen time.
And especially a streaming service that is untested, right?
Right. You can experiment and you can tell really well-rounded stories. And maybe there's an episode where one character doesn't show up for the entire thing, but that's okay because It's not about the actor. It's not about let's shoehorn this person in because we need to pay them a ton of money. So I mean, I think this is a great call. I mean, the more casting news that comes out, if I don't know them when it comes to this show, I'm completely okay with it. I'm sure they'll do a wonderful job.
Yeah, I'm not looking for anyone with a huge name to pull me in. I'm looking for the characters. I'm looking for the story to make me throw down what I probably assume is $10 for another streaming service. And
yeah, I would assume.
And if we keep it grounded like this, I'm on board for it. So
I'm also in board.
Very good news for DC on this one. So see, we balanced out the DC.
Yeah. I'm just going to start calling that Berlanti-verse. It's not DC anymore. It's just the Berlanti-verse.
All right, so now we're going to pivot over to Marvel. As you know, we have our second podcast, The Bingeaholics, where we are currently covering The Defenders. And if you've binged all of The Defenders, you also know that they released a teaser trailer for The Punisher.
Yeah.
Listen.
This looks good. And it wasn't even much.
No, it's just a guy hitting the floor with a sledgehammer.
It was enough. It was just enough. All those little flashes of stuff. And I was like, oh, there's stuff. Ooh, that guy's dead. That's awesome. Like, it looks like they're finally going to get this character right. After so many times of screwing it up, I think this is going to be the one that sticks.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
And it looks... we talk on The Bingeaholics about the way that Jessica Jones and Daredevil and Luke Cage are all very kind of different color schemes. We can clearly tell that we're going to a dark place with the Punisher, figuratively and literally, and I cannot wait to see it. So it looks fantastic. There's a link in the show notes if you haven't seen it already. Check it out because it's going to be a fantastic show coming to your Netflix soon. So, Brian, again, in the world of comic books and movies and how it's, one affects the other is a very common problem right now, and that is the death of superheroes. And the article is titled, Let Superheroes Die. It's from Polygon.com. It has a lot to say, really, about how this is affecting movies, how it's taking down the stakes and the scales. Kind of want your opinion on this because a lot has changed, and we have a couple comments from a couple of listeners who want to chime in on their opinion too, but tell me what you think about this topic in general.
About the topic of death and returns of superheroes all the time, forever and always?
Yes.
My opinion is that in comic books and in movies and television shows, honestly, and unfortunately in anything in this world, death has lost all of its meaning. And I mean, I do agree with the article that the article points out something that says, when one of these characters die, the reader or the watcher isn't forced to think about what my life or what the world is going to be like without this hero. They're forced to think, I wonder how they're going to bring him back in a year. So, and that's sad because it's true. And it's really funny because there's a video that Max Landis does all about the death and return of Superman.
Yes.
And he points out a really good fact that before 1995, when this story came out in the comic books, and I remember when Superman died, and
Me too,
because it was huge.
It was on the news. It was that big.
It was on the news because it was this huge character that no one thought was gonna ever even get hurt, let alone die. And honestly, beforehand, they didn't kill a ton of heroes. They've killed them before. It's not anything new, but they've killed them and they stayed dead. Like Barry Allen is probably the best example of somebody before 95 who died and didn't come back for the longest time. And after Death and Return of Superman, it was this huge cash cow, and everyone saw, well, we can do this, and because of the rules our world lives in, we can easily bring people back. So if we need to shake things up for a little bit, or if we need to sell an extra couple books this month, we'll just kill off one of the main characters.
And this reminds me a little bit too of what you're saying here about X-Men, right? When Charles Xavier dies, right? And we see him literally torn to pieces and spun around.
There are in X-Men 3, there are how many deaths? There's Cyclops, there's Professor X, there's Jean Grey for the second time, and you just it doesn't have the effect anymore. You don't feel upset by it. You don't get angry about it. You don't wonder what are they going to do? What are these characters going to do without this person in their lives? Because a couple years later, or the next movie, i.e. Justice League, they're just going to come back right away. And with either little to no explanation, or if there is an explanation, it's probably a crappy one. And because of the universe these people live in, where aliens are real and resurrection is a thing, and you can easily say, oh, well, it was because of this thing. I like the article, but I mean, I think death has a place in the universe, and I think if it's done correctly, it can be done really well. And I think you can bring someone back from the dead after a couple of years and still do it well and still have the impact that you were hoping for. But it's so overused and it's so just saturated in these stories that it just becomes cliche at this point, and it's lost all of its meaning.
All right, so part of our Patreon package here is that you do get early access to our topics. So we put this out onto Patreon and said, hey, what about the fact that we don't let superheroes die anymore? And Brian Roman replied that I have to say, when it comes to keeping heroes dead, Marvel's Ultimate Universe did this well. When heroes died, it meant something. They were heart-wrenching to see them make the ultimate sacrifice, knowing they weren't ever going to come back. And it opened things up for new characters that we now love to fill their shoes. Having things immediately confirm that a character is coming back just takes away all the drama from death. So can you give me the I am a noob and I have no idea what the heck he's talking about, and kind of how this
I'm going to give you so much. All right, so we've talked about the Ultimate Universe a couple times, and every time I have to explain it, but I'll explain it one more time for you listeners in case you're jumping into episode 117. In about the year 2000, Marvel comic books decided to rebrand some of their characters for modern day, try to get new readers in, and they created an entirely different line that had nothing to do with the regular comic books that have been around for, since the 60s, and they called it the Ultimate Universe. So they were able to start all these characters from the ground up, give their origins a little update, and, try and get some new readership. It was really successful for a long time. They did end up killing a couple people, and they did stay dead. But I'm going to have to burst Brian Roman's bubble for a little bit here. The reason those characters died is because towards the end of the Ultimate run, they kept on trying to kill the Ultimate Universe. They kept on trying to think, well, we're not getting the return that we used to get out of this. We need to squash this universe. And they started it off with Ultimatum, and then that sold really well. So every time they would do these events and kill somebody off, they actually sold more. And then they decided to keep things limping along. And he's bringing up the fact that people taking over for other comic books, and he's thinking Spider-Man. And I know he's thinking Spider-Man because that's how we got Miles Morales. Is because in the Ultimate Universe, we killed off Peter and Miles took his place. Now, I am not negating the storyline at all. That's actually a very well done story, and I highly enjoyed it. But that, again, was Marvel trying to kill off this Ultimate Universe because they weren't selling enough, and then they killed off Peter, and everything spiked up. And the reason they were killing off Peter was because the reason the Ultimate Universe was even selling at all is because people were buying Spider-Man, the Ultimate Spider-Man books, because it was the only book out of all of them that was still really good. And so they were like, okay, I have an idea. Let's kill off Peter, and then we won't have to worry about this. And then they killed off Peter. And Bendis had a plan to introduce Miles for a long time. And because of the spike in sales, they decided to introduce him in the Ultimate Universe. So
I mean,
it's a marketing scam is my point. And I'm sorry, Brian, if this kind of ruins your ideology of the deaths that did happen during that time frame. But it was all a marketing scam of them trying to cut out some books that didn't sell well.
Right.
And then ended up shooting themselves in the foot and having to continue some of these books until well past its prime, which is why now they've combined everything and they've just completely shut off the Ultimate Universe entirely.
So all of this, though, raises one question to me, and it comes to this. In the upcoming Marvel movies, people's contracts are expiring.
Yes, someone will die.
So that's the thing. Someone's going to have to die in Infinity War. I have a guess.
One or two people are going to die.
This has to. This just you can kind of tell the story is building this way, and I don't think those exact people are coming back. I mean, and if we look at Logan, right, we know that, he's dead and Hugh Jackman's not coming back either. We're getting these little, I mean, Logan was the first movie to do it, but again, that's the actor kind of leaving.
The difference with Logan is because of the cluster F that the X-Men universe is, as far as the movies go.
Right.
They can kill him off and say, oh, well, that was just that timeline. Let's go back to the First Class timeline where Wolverine's fine, and we recast him as some young Hemsworth that, no one cares about.
The 19th cousin Hemsworth. But I think we're going to have people die in the MCU, and I think it's going to be permanent. And I hope that this can change. A couple other storylines. I hope this can change the way that movies are approaching this.
I am going to agree with you, but disagree with you.
Thanks, Josh. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think someone will die.
Right.
I think it's either going to be Iron Man or Captain America. I think it will be permanent for that person. I don't believe for a second that if they kill off Iron Man and Captain America, they are not going to have somebody take over that character and just continue that character with a different person. So
you don't think they're going to Miles Morales it? You think they're going to just be, and hey, look, Tony Stark looks different than the last movie. That's fine.
No, I don't think they're going to do that. I think they will Miles Morales.
So Tony Stark is dead, but we have someone pick up the Iron Man mantle. Tony
Stark is dead, but somebody else becomes Iron Man.
That's fine, but that means that Tony Stark is dead, and Tony Stark stays dead. And that's good. We need that. Give me that.
Until we get enough money to pay Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. Whatever. All right. Well, listen. You can rest easy now if your comic books are not your thing, because that is the end of Cape Talk.
Aww.
I also like to scour the internet, find the weird, find the odd, and then I ask this fine gentleman here for his tech perspective. And it starts this week with looking at virtual reality. Yes, I know. No.
Just because Josh isn't here doesn't mean the song doesn't happen.
I went to power through it.
I see where you just powered through and you didn't take a breath, but don't think that that's going to stop me.
Guys, I think virtual reality is a really cool technology, but it's still kind of up in the air. And it's not mainstream yet, but there's some big news coming out of Bethesda. And if you don't know Bethesda, you may know these 3 games: Fallout, Doom, and Skyrim. What they are doing is they are porting and changing these games and taking them over to virtual reality. And I have a link in the show notes for Doom, and it's called VFR. And I want you to think what that F stands for. It stands for fucking. It's awesome.
I thought it stand for Fraggle Gorp.
No, not Fraggle Gorp. But this is really cool. They're changing the Doom story to be a different character, and it looks extremely immersive, where you have kind of game mechanics to justify the fact that you have a 360 view. A lot of jump scares, a lot of scary things, but it's focusing on combat. And you have the ability to jump and teleport and kind of slow things down, because virtual reality is very immersive, and you can't have things happen to you the same way that you do in a video game with a controller.
You get sick so fast.
You get sick so quick, but also, like, you can't physically turn your head that quickly without, just screwing everything up. So having some mechanics in place to slow this down, to make this easier
I have a VR pro tip for people.
Yeah, take Adrenamine?
No, take Adrenamine if you are prone to motion sickness, but if you want to sit sometimes, which some people enjoy doing that, get an office chair that does the little spinny.
Right.
And just play it like that. That's how I play Resident Evil 7. Because you have to spin to actually move. It was like survival horror. Like, you just moved forward and everything else was done by moving your head left and right.
Sure.
And it's really hard to, when you're that immersed, to make sure you're centered on the TV, and you'll end up tripping or falling or anything like that. If you're sitting in the chair and you do the little spinny, no tripping, no falling, and you can still seamlessly move around. What will happen, though, is if a jump scare does happen, you may end up screaming at a lamp, much like somebody I might know. That person is me.
Did you just say I love lamp?
No joke. I was playing Resident Evil 7, and I was in the office chair, and I ended up getting really scared at something that I knew was coming, but I'm stupid, and it's VR. It was the first time I was doing Resident Evil 7 in VR. I started screaming at him, and I'm just screaming at a lamp in the corner of the room because I was no longer facing the television.
I did that once, but it was because I had too much bourbon. No VR
see,
involved.
no bourbon required for this.
Now listen, when it comes to Fallout and Skyrim, things are a little less clear. We don't know if they're actually going to be a special like VR version of Skyrim and Fallout, or if it's going to be a 1-for-1 port. I, for one, am not a fan of a 1-to-1 port because it's a lot of traveling in Skyrim and Fallout, and that shit's going to get tedious really goddamn quick. I asked,
Doesn't get tedious when you're not in VR.
it's true. I asked a couple of gamers, and that was kind of the consensus that I got from them, that, hey, it may be a 1-to-1 port, not good, but everyone's very excited about Doom VFR. Again, I love the fact that Bethesda's just like, yeah, we're gonna say this. Did you see the trailer for this?
Yes, I did.
And it looks really great, so I highly recommend that you go into the show notes right now, check this out, and you'll see exactly why we're kind of excited for this, because this could do something to help VR gaming, and I think if we can get more games like this, I mean, put Portal and stuff like that into a VR situation.
Portal and VR
would be great. See, I think we can open it up and really kind of make something special for it. Last week, the three of us were talking about the movie experience with Movie Pass, and how piracy is really kind of hurting the movie experience. It's hurting the movie industry, and a lot of people are making that their go-to way to watch movies. But we talked about how there's a complicated setup, right? You need to hack a Fire Stick. You need to install Kodi. You need Android on your television, and da-da-da-da-da. It's very complex to do it. And then I looked at an article from The Verge, and it says Microsoft's Windows Store is full of illegal movie and TV streaming apps. I looked at my Windows computer that I have, put just, movies into the search. I've got free HD movies online. I've got new movie box reference. I've got HD movies online. There are pirate video apps all over the place. And I'm so surprised that they're actually getting through the Windows Store approval process, and this is another tool that people are using to pirate videos. This is ridiculous.
I'm not surprised they're getting through. There's literally like no protection on that store. There's like no rules, no holds bar. I
don't know how HBO, I don't know how Sony, I don't know how any of those companies aren't going to Microsoft, their partner, their friend, and being like, hey, shut this shit down. Like, how is that not happening?
Maybe they are, but I mean, it's like when that trailer leaks and once that it's out there, everybody has it, and then people just keep posting it. They can't take it down as fast as people are putting it up.
So Microsoft then threw out a comment, says, we take reports that there are intellectual property infringements and inappropriate content on our store seriously, and we will review this report to its fullest. In effort to listen, Microsoft then released a statement just blowing a bunch of smoke up everyone's ass, saying, oh, listen, thanks for the report. We're totally going to look into it. We take intellectual policies very serious, and we don't like piracy at all. So we're going to maybe see if all these developers are in compliance with our policies. Like, what a seriously. Stop this. It's just killing me, because I was talking to people about Movie Pass and just how this is a really great thing, and the local AMC by us actually does support this program. And I was like, I think it's about time to sign up. And I was surprised, Brian, by the amount of people that were telling me that they were just fire sticking, or they had an app on their phone to do this, and they're like, oh no, I didn't see that movie because I'll just watch it when I got
a guy I work with who's just got a 170-inch screen in his house, and he's like, yeah, if I want to go to the movie theater, I just stream it. I load it up. I'm like, well, you, sir, make me sad, but I want to come to your house.
But here's the thing. Microsoft bans emulator apps because of copyright infringement, but they're not really taking this movie thing seriously. Now, I know a lot of people who listen to this program aren't, Windows people. They're Android and Mac people. But I'm so surprised.
Are we really worried about it being on Windows phones? How many people own a Windows phone?
I think Steve Ballmer. That's about it.
Five in all of the United States and China. I'm not so worried about it being on the phone, but I mean, the Windows 10 has access to that app store too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does, because it's now one ecosystem.
A lot more people own a Windows PC than a Windows phone.
So I think I just opened up the eyes to. I may have inadvertently just opened up a whole bunch of people who say, really? I can go watch free movies on my Windows phone?
You, sir, are killing the fabric of our society.
Here's the problem with these
things. You are
things.
enabling people to continue to kill the fabric of our society.
Before you go out, though, and download these, know that there's serious consequences that come with this. And I'm not talking about one day you might get a letter from your ISP saying, stop downloading movies. It's not what I'm talking about. Windows is susceptible to viruses, and things that you are downloading from the store could have some malicious things put inside of it. So don't download illegal movies. It's not worth it. You could just ruin your entire computer, and you should just go get Movie Pass right now. $10 a month. They're not paying us. Just go get the goddamn thing and go see some movies that are in the theater. Just go. It's ridiculous. It is now time for the Nerd Degree. The Nerd Degree is where that kind of nerd gives a topic, a product, or a movie the third degree, and we decide if it passes or fails. This week's target is pretty freaking awesome. It is an Optimus Prime toy that automatically transforms on its own. The video is right there in the show notes. Pause us real quick. Go ahead and take a peek at this. Come back and tell me you don't want one of these right now.
What? How does it trigger the transformation?
Who cares? Who cares how it does? Look at that thing. It's actually transforming. It's like it's sentient.
I get it. Well, first off, it wasn't the whole appeal of Transformers toys, the transformation, like you putting it and fitting it all together, first off.
No,
secondly,
that's not the whole appeal, but sure. Well,
secondly, is there like a code phrase? Is there like a thing that I have? Does it only transform when Nicki Minaj is playing? Like, I'm really confused.
I don't care how it works. I don't care if I press a button and I walk away and it does it. Here's what I want. I want Transformers, right? I want them to just do the self-transforming. I want Power Rangers, right? So I want all the Zords. I want to go Zords to make it Zords with just watching it like it's magic. I want Voltron. I want that stuff to happen. And maybe when some Gundams, I want to see some Gundams do some animated things. More of this. Yes. I don't shut up and take my money. This looks incredible.
I am not all ready to jump on board this.
Why?
You know why? Because anything that's automated like this, after about 16 uses, breaks down and doesn't do it anymore. Or does it very, not good. I think it's really cool for the first 5 uses, but after that, probably not so much. And the moment some kid takes this toy into the sandbox and is playing, catch the Allspark with his friends, and some sand gets in whatever gears are causing this to happen, it's not going to work. I'm not for this.
Listen, I have kids, and yes, they grab things, break things. This is not something my daughters will ever touch. This
okay, even when I go out to the sandbox to play catch the Allspark, it's not going to survive that trip.
What kind of palatial estate has a sandbox?
There's a whole room that's set up like a beach.
There we go, a room. That's more like it.
I don't go into that room because I prefer my pasty alabaster look, but it's there in case I need it.
I think this is awesome, and I give it 5 explosion emojis out of 5.
Also, cats are not allowed in the sand room.
Very true.
For very obvious reason. But
again, wait. Are there a lot of cats?
No. They're very few.
Very few. So ladies, remember the cat to male ratio at Brian's palatial estate very low.
So I'm not on board.
5 explosion emojis out of 5 for me. It's happening.
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5 explosion emojis.
That is quite.
If it was a text message, it would read ...
That's like the Mount Vesuvius of emoji explosions.
That's right. What about you? This is the standard thing, so I don't know why you're hesitating.
I'm gonna have to give it a 2 explosion emojis out of 5.
Well, at least that's respectable.
I'm sorry. I mean, it's respectable. It's a great idea. I think it's cool. Would I get one? Probably.
Think of it as a collector's item you keep on your shelf.
I don't see it surviving wear and tear. I just don't.
All right, and because Josh is not here, we do not have cast this week. That's a very odd thing to say. That's man-made, everybody. It's on a soundboard. Any final thoughts?
Be good to one another.
So,
watch Marvel movies, not DC. The Ultimate Universe was a money-making scam. Sorry, Brian Roman. And automated Autobots, not that great an idea.
You know, we have an episode called Josh Burns Ruins Everything, and the way you just summarized this, it's Brian Thornton ruins everything.
That's okay, because we're the Bernstins. We have to ruin something every once in a while.
Let me note, by the way, great post on our Facebook page from Laura is a wonderful family portrait of the Bernstins.
A portrait
At the boardwalk. Noticed one member of this unit here. I wasn't given the invitation. I wasn't the heads up. I guess my note got lost.
Well,
in the
it was
mail.
very last minute. We didn't have time to fill out the easy 63-9 that we would need to get you out of the house.
Just saying, it's a very beautiful picture. You should go check it out on our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/thatkindofnerd. You can find us on Twitter. Just search That Kind of Nerd. And please help support this podcast. We keep it ad-free thanks to the wonderful people over at Patreon. Go to patreon.com/thatkindofnerd. And just starting for $5, you can get early access to our topics and certain episodes as well. So thank you so much for making us a walk around your neighborhood or your drive to work. I'm CJ Mellon, joined by Brian Thornton, and we will see you all next week.
If you love comics and sci-fi and technology, television, video games, and fantasy, well, take a listen to our show, I'm sure you'll see there's many points where we can agree. Like that Martha as a plot point was just too absurd, and Apple versus Android is a case to be heard, and that Josh Trank's new Fantastic Four was a turd. Well, welcome to the club, 'cause you are that kind of nerd.
Spoilers. This article spoils the end of... What's it say? This article will contain spoilers for The Defenders, also X2, X-Men United, The Dark Knight Rises, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, The Death and Return of Superman, Final Crisis, Logan, and potentially Justice League.
Wait for the chocolate milk.
I got you. Nesquik.
No, not Nesquik. What's the matter with you? Hershey
What do you
syrup.
do? Hershey syrup?
Hershey syrup and
You
milk.
can't stir the syrup enough
Have
that it
you met
equally
my wife?
displaces.
Have you
There is no amount of violent stirring that will get every bit of chocolate syrup
Now listen,
dispersed in the
you know
milk.
I have my microphone set up to be very sensitive to my voice and ignore the outside world.
I understand.
You can hear
how your
that.
I don't care. I guarantee you there is syrup at the bottom of that glass. At least the ring around the edge.
Win.
Wait.
You
Nope.
shut your face.
I said there's the tiny bit. Yeah, exactly. The little dot in the center and the little ring around it. You didn't stir it. You didn't stir all of it. Not enough. Powdered is the only way to go. At least with the powder, as long as you don't put too much powder in because you're a fucking savage, you can equally displace and it disintegrates and it gets amongst the milks.
Wow.